And then there was one. After an 8-year absence, the Pirelli World Challenge Championships return to Watkins Glen International Raceway, and we are down to the last race of this first day of doubleheader competition at the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of Watkins Glen, presented by TM Performance. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Greg Creamer, along with Calvin Fish, Ryan Marine. We'll be covering the action amongst our sizable field down there for the second to the last round, the 7th round of the Pirelli World Challenge GTS and GTSA championships. And as you can see, the field getting ready, drivers about to climb on board these cars. This is definitely championship weekend, Cal, for the sprint championships, for the overall combined championships. And we've said it many times already today, what a place to be able to finish a season out at this great racetrack. And we have seen some amazingly eventful, unique races that have already unfolded at a big field. Huge talent behind the wheel. This should be fun.
Lots to look forward to. It's great to be back here at Watkins Glen for certain, and all of the competitors licking their lips at getting the green flag here for the first time with the GTS cars here today. Championships on the line, a lot of different scenarios with both the GTS and the GTSA classes. And as we've seen today, lots of drama already. So we anticipate more over the next 24 hours or so with 2 rounds remaining.
We've had unique weather patterns that have moved through. It's been rainy, misty rainy. It's been sunny. Now it's a little cloudy, but it looks dry, and there are some good clear patches. And let's take a look about this track. Obviously, this place is absolutely storied in terms of history and the like, but one of the reasons is the challenges that it presents. And one of the things it does better than most is provide just raw speed out of sheer grip.
Well, the configuration gives you the speed naturally, and then the grip. It was resurfaced here a couple of years ago, and just tremendous grip. When you add to that these GT4 cars that are going to be competing here this afternoon, it's going to be spectacular. But, you know, the conditions are perfect, a little bit of cloud cover, not extreme temperatures like we've seen in the previous rounds of the championship. So everyone should be looking forward to this. And with championships on the line, it really adds to the pressure situation, not only for the guys in contention, but for the guys around them, guys who have nothing to lose. Do they factor in these guys that they're racing with who are going for a championship, or do you just want to finish off the season on a high and get the glory into the off-season?
One of the interesting things about this track, too, is there are spots on this track where there's tons of room in runoff, and there are spots on this track that are wickedly fast with virtually nothing for runoff. So precision is incredibly important here.
It is, and you know, it's an old-fashioned racetrack. It maintains its character. You can see the bright blue Armco barriers. They're very close proximity to the racing surface in a number of areas, so there's not a lot of room for margin. But the grip level will give you the ability to get away with some moves, try some ambitious moves. But if it does go wrong, it's typically at high speed, and there's not much room for errors. You can see right there where the short circuit joins the long circuit here out of the boot.
And the race analysis would be, of course, the track just under 3.4 miles in length, 11 turns, all of them absolutely phenomenal. Lots of challenges here, one of them in the inner loop, which is the quick right, left, right at the end of the long back straight, especially the second set of curbs back there, very aggressive. Drivers have been warned you may not want to get up onto that too much. A lot to be processing as this race unfolds, and it all comes at you at immense pace.
It does, and if you have a car that has the compliancy and the suspension movement to use the curves without being too abrupt and maintaining the speed there's obviously track limits that can come into effect. And as the driver's steward said during their meeting here with the drivers this weekend, when you're up on the curbs, the car's going to be shaking. If it's suddenly no shake, that means you're out of bounds, so make sure you're aware of that. They'll probably get a warning or two, but if you abuse that continuously, there will be a penalty, so everyone's looking for that extra edge.
And that edge is about to be shown here as we are just about ready to get to the front of this field for that very special command. And standing by to take us through that, Ryan Marine. We're looking forward to this one, man.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kirk Petrie from Racing for Pause to give the command to start engines.
Drivers, start your engines.
And on cue, the engines spring to life. This great field about to set sail, 22 cars strong. as we get racing to go, Racing for Paws. The driver in the number 62 McLaren, Mark Glenn, and his wife Jamie, as Racing for Paws. It is a program that helps animal rescues, and she's got lots of special guests here this weekend, and those two were here with a very special treat for the weekend. Great to have them here. Cal, let's take a look at our Pirelli storylines, and we've got a couple of good ones here. The first one was for the guy who's leading in the points coming in here in GTS in the Pro-Am category, James Safronis. Big drama in qualifying.
Yeah, there really was. I mean, this is a man who's going for a triple. He clinched the Sprint X championship along with Alex Welsh at the last rounds of the championship at Utah. But this weekend, he clinched not only that Sprint championship, but also the overall big lead in the overall, 38 points, 21 in the Sprint with Lawson Oschenbach's problems. But in qualifying, talk about drama, suddenly cut down a tire, managed to still qualify just inside the top 10, but not the qualifying session that James Safronis was looking for.
Not at all. And then you go to the GTSA and the points contenders there. Coming in here, Drew Stavely has had a tremendous season already, winning the GTS AM Sprint X Championship in the hunt for the win here. During qualifying, he ended up at one point having a lap deleted, went back out and was able to get a time for 8th, but then got gifted just before the start of the race after a review.
Well, I think the team went to the stewards and gave video evidence that he didn't go out of bounds with the track limit, so he got that lap back. That puts him P4 on the grid, which is the good news. The bad news is the guy closest to him in the championship is Jeff Courtney. He grabbed the pole, so he's only got a 6-point lead over Jeff Courtney and 2 rounds to go, and that Maserati is very fast here this weekend. Jeff Courtney could spring a surprise this weekend.
Yeah, and he's 6 spots behind Courtney. That's going to be tough to overcome. But there are other great stories as well, and Ryan Marine, one of them, boom, right on the front row.
That's right, our pole sitter for the 4th time this season is Ian James. If not for a terrible start to the season, just 19 points in the first 4 races, he very well might be in the championship conversation. Unfortunately, he's not, despite the fact he has not finished worse than 2nd since May. Since then, race 1 at Lime Rock, he's rattled off 4 wins, 3 second-place finishes. No one is hotter in GTS competition, and I think he's going to be one to keep an eye on here, starting on pole today.
Absolutely. That is a great story, how they have been able to come through and do it. Joining him in the front row with a brand-new graphics package on the car is Jade Buford for PF Racing. And there's that red Panos, but right behind him as they swoop through here on this installation and safety lap, the new hot pink version for Jade Buford.
Force India Formula One team really spreading their wings, aren't they?
To get an American Ninja Warrior, pink card, let's go after it here. Big story, too, for Lawson Oschenbach in the number 1 Black Duck Speed Shop Camaro, who up until Road America was the guy that just looked like he was going to rock in this championship.
Yeah, swept the first 4 rounds, then got 0 point score at Road America, their home track, just major mechanical rear suspension issues, so he's got a big hole to try and pull his way out of, but big rebuild on that car as well. His teammate Andy Pilgrim in the Sprint X round at Utah went for a ride, flew for a ride literally, and big rebuild to get that car back here for this weekend.
And the field getting ready for the green flag for this 7th round of the Pirelli World Challenge GTS and GTA Championship. Here is Ian James and that Panos on the pole, Buford alongside. Then Lawson Oschenbach in 3rd. Patrick Gallagher in for Vinny Allegretta, who's still suffering a little bit, just hurting a little bit after the big start shunt at Utah. So Patrick is in and has been incredibly fast all weekend. We have a great race that's about to unfold. 50 minutes. 1 driver, 1 car, solve the problem, get to the front, and it all begins here at Watkins Glen International as Ian James brings that Panos up. All eyes on the start stand. And listen for the howl from that front group when we go green, and there it is.
Late, and Buford goes with him. Down to the inside looks Lawson Oschenbach. He's been super aggressive in some of these races recently. Oh, Gottsacker in there super deep. Just misses the back end of Oschenbach as Shane Lewis makes a nice move up to 4th.
Yeah, Shane went right around both Gallagher and Gottsacker as well. That was a superb launch for him. And it looks like Safronis may have moved up a couple of spots as well.
Really thought Harry Gottsacker was going to get into the rear end of Oschenbach down there at the apex area of turn 1, but did a nice job in getting things rode down a little bit. Battle for the lead into the inner loop.
Oh, look at that. Just beautiful run by Buford. Floats way wide. Misses that second curb, but gathers it up.
Here, let the battle resume. So often we've seen over the past couple of seasons, Ian James versus Lawson Oschenbach, but it's not for the lead right now as Jay Buford has gone to the front. See Oschenbach down to the inside there, looking for a way through. We talk about being aggressive early. That Camaro really seems to find its sweet spot a little bit sooner than some of the other cars.
Just watch Sofronis really take a significant look at Gar Robinson, the team car to Shane Lewis. I don't think he got through, but he also understands I've got to get to the front just as fast as I can.
Big move by Gartsacker, got the power down early. Out of the toe of the boot, looking at the inside into the brake zone on Shane Lewis. Can't quite get it done, has to eat some of the curb there to not get into him.
Then behind Gottsacker is the number 10 of Gallagher, then Gar Robinson, then it is the number 14 of Sofronis. And I'll tell you, the guy in the GTSA category who got the start of starts is Nikolai Elganian. He has jumped all the way up into the lead of GTSA.
Danny Ricciardo, I like to call it.
Look at that.
Oh, a little touch there between Sofronis and Elganian.
I think Elganian thought, I've got to run here. I'm going to get down the inside, and right as Sofronis moved over. Now that gives Courtney a little bit of a run, and Elganian moves over, and Courtney's just going to blow by around the outside, Cal.
Yeah, we just see the dynamic of the crossbow. It has the cornering speed, but doesn't quite have the straightaway speed of some of the others. That's the ebb and flow, and the different dynamic with the various manufacturers involved in this championship.
I'll tell you, Nikolai has absolutely no fear sticking the nose in on that crossbow. He and Courtney side by side up the hill for the lead in GTSA.
Mike Hedlund gets a run.
Hedlund. And here comes Kurtz.
Here comes the Flying Lizard. Takes the position. Kurtz goes with him.
The Flying Lizard in the crowd strike. And then Elgahanian deep on the brakes in the crossbow.
Gapel's in the mix as well, followed by Ori Fidani. Fidani knows this racetrack, only here in CTMP of the tracks he knows from previous experience. What a move by Elganian around the outside of Mike Hedlund there. Coming through the outer loop.
Just parked it around the outside of turn 5. And that should slot him right back up now into that second spot. Just some fierce opening lap action.
You can see the strengths and weaknesses of the crossbow right there. Loses a little bit down the straightaways, but boy, can it roll speed around these corners. Here's Sofronis putting the pressure on Gar Robinson. A lot to think about in terms of championship potential for James Sofronis. What a season he's had.
But how risk, what's the risk versus reward at this stage, obviously?
We talk about it a lot, but I think the first thing is the target is get to 50%, then get a little bit racier. Got to score points. He can't afford to have a zero.
And the thing that's going to help him and the rest of the Audis out in this race is they've been given with BOP a really high ride height. They got some of that back in terms of the car running a little bit lower. And they said it was to the point where the car was really difficult to drive. And they said, so we got the trade-off. We've got more weight, so we don't have quite straight line speed, but at least we can get through the corners. And here comes Courtney taking a look. More, I think, to defend on Elganian. But look at Sofronis deep, deep, deep into turn 1 and gets by Gar Robinson. And Elganian.
All speed.
Man.
Wow.
Oh, look at
good
Gar.
stuff. Now coming back at James, side by side, up through the S's. Good, clean racing there, giving each other a little bit of room and some respect.
And Courtney, and remember that Maserati, one of the older GT4 platforms here, he has no driver aids, no ABS, no TC. He's doing it all himself. And here comes Hedlund now. But as soon as he gets alongside, he gets into the brake zone, and Elganian, that crossbow, just picks up 2 car lengths.
There's Elganian here. Watch how much speed he can roll. Will he look to the outside of Courtney like he did on Hedlund? Yes, he does. Can he make it stick? That has to be a fun car to drive.
Oh, my goodness, you would think. Courtney said, well, I'm not going to make it work where I'm sitting here on the outside. Don't try and fight it. Jeff Courtney, of course, would be a great story for Jeff. He's been racing in the Pirelli World Challenge for a very long time. Finally got his first ever win at his home track. He's from Milwaukee area and won at Road America, and now might be able to get himself a championship. But he's got one quick crossbow that he's got to deal with and try and shake here. And he gets to the outside. You can see a bit more power. Get out of the brakes. And Elganian just knifes back through again.
That is the battle for the class lead right now. We're talking about the championship, obviously, with Staveley and Courtney going hard at it, just separated by 6 points. But this is the battle for the class lead right here. Elganian has taken the lead back. 9th overall, first in class. Looking at Staveley's position, he's dropped some spots. Drew Staveley down in 7th in the GTSA class. This is potentially a big day for Jeff Courtney.
We're getting reports from the corners that Elganian's car might have something a little loose. Haven't seen anything at this stage. I'll certainly keep an eye out for it. As he's taking the run here again, Sofronis wants to get down underneath. The 74 of Robinson does. Down into turn 1.
But Nikolai, he goes to the inside. Not sure he's going to have the power to make it stick all the way up the hill, though. See if Gar can come back at him. Should have a bit more grunt right there. Yes, he does.
And Elganian wants to just tuck in because he knows Courtney has got speed in that Maserati. He's got to get Courtney to go to the outside so he can try and out deep. But Courtney goes by, and Hedlund's going with Cortland here. Could this be a double pass? No, wasn't even a single pass.
That was big.
That was, yeah, it was. And that really slowed up
Look
Courtney.
at the speed he rolls. Takes drivers by surprise. You're not even looking out there, Greg. You don't recognize that another competitor can roll that much more speed around the outside of you. That's the trickiest part for Nikolai, is the other drivers recognizing where he's going to be, I would think.
Yeah, and you do that, you better get alongside and in their line of sight in a hurry.
Yeah, you want to establish yourself and make sure that they see you.
Or you might get inadvertently rudely ushered right off the track.
Over the last couple of weekends, I said, you remind me of someone. Then it came to me, Danny Ricciardo. He's always got a big smile, similar in looks.
Yep.
We'll call him Nikolai.
Oh, we can't do that. We just got the memo about Elganian. Yes, Mom, we got the memo, Elganian, but we can't go Rickolayan on him.
It's been sensational this year,
been.
you know, coming out of the box at Lime Rock.
Whoa!
Oh! As I say that, tears off something on the race car.
Sure did.
Sure he just pulled the inner fender out of it, or what went adrift?
Well, it yanked the inner fender out. I can't believe that he didn't do any damage to the right front.
That's amazing. This is as close as you want to get for a big one.
That was just as he turned in. I think he just turned in a little bit late.
Now that team, they're very high on this young man in terms of his natural talent, and I think we're starting to see that over the races this year, Greg.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he was at Lime Rock. He actually had an overall win in the championship. I mean, when he's feeling it, certainly, he is wickedly quick, and you feel it more and more often just with seat time and experience, but I don't think there's any question the raw speed is there. Gar Robinson trying to get back around, and Courtney trying to swing around the outside. Can't quite get that done.
What a crazy dynamic we're seeing here with the different manufacturers and the platforms having different pros and cons here. Good run for George Kurtz.
Yes, it is.
Starting to find his feet again. Had a massive season with the McLaren, and this year hasn't quite demonstrated the same pace, and there's been a big adjustment for him to the Audi, but I think with Colin Brown, his teammate in Sprint X competition, and here this weekend coaching him, he's got some good people on his box.
Well, and you tend to forget in the very first race of the season, George was on pole in GTS in the GTSA category, didn't get the result, and then started to have some of the struggles. Road America had the big wreck, and it just had to fight back through it. And he certainly is on form this weekend in that CrowdStrike Audi. And I think you can see the pure evidence from the fact that when they gave the Audis that little bit back in terms of ride height, gave them a little bit more weight, they're just much more racy now.
Well, I think it's a comfort factor too. I think with some of the changes that have been made, that the car wasn't feeling right, and driver confidence is such a huge part, whether you're a seasoned pro or a gentleman pro-am driver. You know, having the car underneath you really shows up in the lap times.
By the way, as we're watching the 74 Gar Robinson, that's the 74 Ranch Chevrolet Camaro. He is your Optima Batteries best start winner, up 3 spots on that opening lap. And is under attack, however, as he's chasing Courtney. And Gar runs in the pro category. Courtney right behind him. Hedlund, Kurtz are all GTSA category drivers.
Season for the Ranch 74 team.
Yeah.
Starting the year with the Mercedes AMG and then making the switch. Just felt that they were a lot more comfortable with this Camaro. Pratt & Miller being just down the road from their shop. Just really struggled to align themselves with a European manufacturer. and made the call early, and I think that'll pay dividends next year when they anticipate coming back with a two-car effort, maybe even more, I'm hearing.
Well, and people in that team, remember Dad, George, ran Chevrolets and Trans Am for a lot of years, and Jimmy Fraser, who's crew chief, has got like 30 years of experience dealing with the bow tie, so they're back at home as far as they're concerned. And watching what Jeff Courtney is doing here, we talked about the opportunity for him getting his first win in the championship this year, and Ryan, he's got an opportunity in that same year he gets his first win to get a championship.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because Jeff's been in the thick of the fight all season. He is again here once again. Doug Livingston is the crew chief for Jeff Courtney Racing. First of all, what has he told you about the fight he's in? It looks like he's in an awful lot of traffic right now.
A lot of pressure this weekend. I mean, hopefully we'll come out with a championship at the end here. You know, the little Expo is right there with us, and we've just got to keep Drew and the Janetta behind us, and hopefully we'll clinch it. I mean, we're working hard this weekend. This track really suits the Maserati, so it's a big long straightaway, a lot like Road America, and so we're good. I mean, I think we're having a great weekend so far, as long as the weather holds off.
And you're not one of the ones that would like to see some rain. If it stays dry, that plays to your hand.
Jeff likes the rain, but we don't like the rain. We just hope it stays dry and weather holds off, and we'll be good.
We'll let you get back to work. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks.
Well, Jeff's a very good driver in the rain, but as we said, this car has no aids. He doesn't have traction control or ABS.
ABS is the key.
That's the thing, exactly. And I'm just massively impressed after grinding along the wall that, what did you say, Nikolai Elganian is managing to hang on, not just to the lead, but actually ease away just a little bit from Courtney.
Well, that's good news for him, because he has lap time, but it's just the dynamic. Now you can see that right fender fluttering a little bit in the down these high-speed sections, so hopefully that will hang on there for the rest of this race. But by gapping Courtney now, he can run his own lap time. He's not battling constantly, so that could be good news, and maybe he'll bring him a class victory here today.
Meanwhile, dare I say it, Jade Buford looking pretty in pink right here, with a good run here at this stage.
He and James just snuck away the best lap of the race so far at a 55.55 to Buford's 56.55 to a 56.56. So 1/100th of a second between those two guys, but James has the provisional pole for tomorrow.
Sitting behind them, Lawson Aschenbach in that #1 Black Dog Speed Shop Camaro. There it goes with the blue stripes.
And you know Lawson has got to be so frustrated with this season. I mean, they had some drama with the Sprint X stuff with he and Andy Pilgrim. And then he really was, I think, sort of like laying his hat in terms of this sprint championship. Swept the first 4 rounds and then had that disastrous weekend at Road America that started in qualifying and never got any better. 0 point score has given Sofronis a 21-point lead coming into this weekend.
So he still has an opportunity. He's going to need something to happen, and he knows it can, because as you said, it happened to him in Road America. But at the most recent round of the Pirelli World Challenge Championships, the Sprint X season finale in Utah, his teammate in this car, Andy Pilgrim, got involved in an incident none of his doing, and as it turned out, it was a much more severe impact than they thought, and what it did was created a massive rebuild effort. A bit earlier in the weekend, we found Ray Sorensen, who runs that team, and asked him just what that entailed.
Well, the first thing was that Mark was able to hustle the truck back to the shop right from Utah and gave us a little jump start. And the big thing is to just kind of analyze where we're at, get the car up in the air, and really kind of assess where we're at as far as where the damage was. So the biggest thing we did first was just to do all the mechanical work. Basically just take the whole car down, all the suspension, everything off, transmission, differential, everything out. And we had all the pieces to replace all that. So basically, by the time, I guess it was Thursday afternoon, so 2.5 days in the shop, the car was ready to go to the body shop. So they had all the pieces ready, quarter panels and everything to put the car back together. So it was a quick turnaround, really, but the best thing was it wasn't, could have been hurt worse, and we got pretty lucky that it wasn't worse than what it was.
And that's a very good point. And that body shop was Bull Valley Auto Body in McHenry, Illinois, the team based in Illinois. And Greg Turley, who's the manager of that, Ray told me he called him and he said, can you clear the plate? And the guy went, what do you need? And he said, when do you need it back? And Ray said, it's got to be loaded and ready to go by late Tuesday afternoon of this week. They got the car Monday morning.
Yeah.
Great story.
It's all about teamwork and having relationships in this sport, and you build those over the years, and certainly Black Dog Speed Shop have had so much success over the years, and it's not just down to the drivers, it's not just down to Ray, it's all of the partners involved as well.
And as we watch this battle at the front, Jade Buford leading. There is Ian James in that Panos. And Ryan at the top of the show had talked about, had they had a better start to the season, they could have been in this championship battle. But Ryan, there is no doubt they are in the battle for this race win.
They are, and I guess that's what it comes down to at this point, finding ways to win races. Tom Milner oversees this Panos racing operation. You've got Ian running towards the front, just set the fastest lap of the race a little while ago. Does he have the car under him to chase Jade down?
Well, it's a ways to go. It's nice to know that for the moment, because we get to start on the pole, and we need every point we can get. We're happy with where we are right now. Unfortunately, with Preston, we made a little mistake, but he's doing fine. He's already moved up 7 spots, so far, so good.
So far, so good down here in the Panos pits.
Yeah, once they got things sorted, this car has been absolutely flying. In the team car right now, Preston Calvert, they had to work on the car in the pit lane during the qualifying session. Again, that's a Park for May scenario. He had to start at the back. He's gone from 22nd overall to 15th. He's 7th in class, and he's put together a 2-win season with just some remarkable drives, and he's got another one going here coming from deep in the pack.
Yeah, it's been a fun year for Preston. I think he's really found a good group to work with. He likes the race car. He feels comfortable in it. You can see the confidence that he's driving with this year. And with confidence, that just brings the results. And it's great to see him at the sharp end, winning class a couple of times, as you mentioned. And you won't meet a nicer guy in this paddock. So it's fun to see him have the success this year. And I think Ian is really a great team leader there. And Tom Milner, the rest of the boys and girls there, just so much experience. They are a wonderful, wonderful race team. And they're capable of competing at the top level in whichever class or championship they run in.
Oh, without doubt. And Preston is also a neuro-ophthalmologist and has created a concussion protocol for this series and oversees that. So aside from being a very nice guy, he's kind of bright. Kind of a bright man.
He is smart.
Yeah, he is indeed.
Sure.
And showing that he has a pretty good skill set behind the wheel. We've been impressed the last couple of seasons. We watched him in World Challenge, but he is an absolute front runner in SCCA national level competition at the runoffs and the like. So it's not a huge surprise. This is, however, bad news for the number 10 of the Patrick Gallagher making his way down into pit lane. And look at this. Nikolai Elganian now attacking on James Safronis. This is for 6th. And the issue for Safronis here, we keep saying this, folks, but it's crucial. If you're running in the pro category here, you're rated overall. So if you're behind AM drivers, you lose those points.
Yeah, so he doesn't want to lose that spot to Nikolai, and 10 cars in, Ryan.
Well, it was quick in, quick out. See if Ryan can give us an update at some point. So that's unfortunate because Patrick Gallagher is very quick. I think he's one of the guys on the rise in road racing, but that has cost him dearly from a strong qualifying effort in 4th. And when he comes back out here, well, he shows his 14th. We'll see where that actually slots out as we go back to this battle for 6th overall for Safronis, with Elganian right on his 6th.
And right now, looking at the point swing, going into the race tomorrow, the positions stay as they are. It would give Safronis a 15-point lead over Lawson Oschenbach, who runs in the 3rd position on the road right now. And that may, in fact, be enough to clinch James Safronis the overall title. So he's going for the triple. He may have 2 titles at the end of the day and have to fight for the 3rd tomorrow.
All right, let's check in again with Ryan Marine on Patrick Gallagher and the PF Mustang.
And hopefully the second time's the charm on the update. But essentially the team knew basically what was going on when they came in. They suspected a blown fuse. They opened up the passenger side door, had a couple crew members stick their heads in there, and that was in fact the problem. It was rectified quickly, and he's back out, but it nullifies what had been a top 5 run up until that point.
Yeah, it sure did. He had a good one going. And another thing here, as we take a look at Patrick Gallagher now, who's got some work to do to come through the pack. We talked about Stavely getting that gift where they gave him the lap back, and he started in 4th. He's back in 10th in class right now, while Courtney is sitting in 2nd. That's a huge swing.
It really is. It'll give Courtney 140 points and Stavely 133. So big swing in the points. He's basically gone from a 7-point deficit to a 7-point advantage overnight. So lots of time left on the clock there. So for Drew Stavely, we've seen him put in some great performances, Greg, where he's come through the pack late in the going. He's got to pull a rabbit out of his hat today, otherwise it's going to be a long day tomorrow.
And it looks like Gallagher once again heading toward pit lane, so more problems there. And chatting with the team earlier in the weekend, they had mentioned the fact, they said, part of the problem is we got another little BOP adjustment. And he said, here at this track, he said, our car is really nimble. It gets through corners incredibly well, but it's got that V6 Ford engine in it. And he said, we just don't have the torque. Even in a fast corner, when you go to throttle, it doesn't jump out of that corner like some of these other cars. And on a tight, twisty track, we're golden. On this type of a track, he said, we might be suffering a little bit, and it seems to be the case.
Yeah, and this is unfortunate here. Probably new car blues. New car had to be built up after the start line incident in Utah with Vinny Allegretta. So a lot of work by that team, and it's great to see this team in the championship, moving over from Trans Am competition. They've certainly been a force to be reckoned with this year on numerous occasions.
Yeah, they have indeed put up some great runs. And Patrick Gallagher, I always call him the Patrick Gallagher because he always talks about the Ohio State, where he goes to college. So, but a really, really top-flight driver, no question about that. Somebody else I wanted to give a shout-out to here who figured he might do all right here is Ori Fidani in the number 13 FAF Porsche, who is currently running 6th in the GTSA category. He said, a lot of the tracks this year, he's from Canada. He said, I haven't run a lot of the tracks in the U.S. He's done the Canadian Championship. This one he knows. And he said, I think, we could do something here. And he's been quick.
He really has. And he's another driver. We talk about it a lot at this stage of the year where drivers are starting to find their feet and, gain confidence. And that's certainly coming in general. But when he now comes to the end of the season and gets to a racetrack that he knows, because they used to campaign here regularly, that's kind of a double. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You've got the confidence factor and the track knowledge. So I expected him to show well. He's got Carl Marcelli here coaching once again, who he shares the car with in Sprint X competition. So good little team. And I think Ori's really enjoyed this experience in Pirelli World Challenge this year.
I think, too. Every time you go and talk to him, he's just smiling, going, this has just been a great, great time. And for James Safronis, the good news is it looks like he's been able to shake Elganian a little bit. Now he's got a lot of breathing room, and it's allowed him, looking at the laps, he just set best lap of the race. That would give him pole for tomorrow.
That's huge.
And he's starting to close in a little bit on Lewis.
That is massive.
Yes,
that
it
is big, big news for James Safronis. And for the other front runners, they will be relayed that information and say, if you got anything in the bag, dig deep, because Safronis just laid down fastest lap of this race. And he's only 0.3 quicker than the front, well, basically the top 4 in the race on that last lap. So you'd have to think that maybe one of those guys can find a little bit extra and steal that pole position back for tomorrow.
Well, you almost wonder if he finally was able to get a little bit of breathing room back to Elganian. He knew Lewis was up the road a little bit, wasn't going to affect him in terms of a run, and said, this is my lap. This is when I need to get this done. I don't have to worry about Nikolai attacking. And boy, did he time that to perfection.
Yeah, and he's also getting to that point in the race. We talk about it as a target when you're in championship contention, Greg, to get to the 50% mark where you will get awarded points. And he's now right there. And I think if he's got anything left to give, he's going to go and attack with it. Michael Johnson has been drafted in for this weekend just to assist James in this final charge to the championship, who has a lot of experience as well. So a lot of poise there, a lot of experience. What's James done, like 230-odd challenge races now? So he knows, he's been through this many times before, and it's great to see him getting the success over the last couple of seasons in terms of titles as well as race wins.
This is his 25th season of Pirelli World Challenge competition, to give you an idea of how long he's been in the game. There's a look. The number 12 G3 Racing Jeanette of Drew Stavely, and he's in a little battle there right in front of him. The number 2 of Jason Bell in the GMG entry grid sport package, and right in front of him is James Pesic in the Co-College number 40. That's another of those PF Racing Mustangs. Jason Bell got a sweet run coming out of the toe of the boot, see if he can do anything with it, or excuse me, out of the S's. Tried to get down to the inside, but Pesic had him covered just enough. And right in front of them is Calvert. So this is a good little battle.
It really is. A tough season in many ways for Jason Bell, making the transition over to GMG after the start of the year. Didn't start the year with them. Had a couple of incidents with his race cars this year, but he's loving life. He likes this championship. He likes the Audi, and he's got a great set of crew members around him. GMG Racing just do a fabulous job for their customers, and I think Jason's found a really good home there.
Well, the guy who helped a young man named Alec Udell become a GT Cup champion and a front runner in GT to the point where he was named and moved to be a full-on pro in very short order. Neville Lagasse is the guy who's crewing for Jason Bell here.
Doesn't come any better than that.
I was going to say. It's pretty good stuff.
Wonderful man, great experience. And he'll give you a great race car. And he'll talk you through how to deal with the various elements of a race weekend very, very well.
And the funny thing is, when somebody comes to Neville, a driver comes to Neville and is talking about, yeah, you don't understand the fear, you know, the car. Neville started off road racing motorcycles at Bathurst. So he just looks up and goes, really?
Fair, then.
You want to have that discussion? Yeah, exactly. By the way, here's that battle we were talking about. Ori Fadani sitting in 6th, and right in front of him, Tony Gaples. And just wanted to, this is such a good little battle right now. We wanted to show it. But Tony Gaples at Utah became, I think, only the 3rd driver in the series to hit 200 starts. Just a phenomenal career for him, and a huge supporter of this championship over the years. And he is one fun guy just to spend time with.
He really is. He's a tremendous personality. As you say, he loves life. He loves his racing. He supported a lot of great drivers, including Lawson currently. I mean, obviously, Lawson gets support from GM. But Tony has to put the program together and build the team. And Michael Cooper had a lot of success with him as well. So it's great to have someone like Tony in the sport.
It was really fun. Last year, at one point, my wife and I were going to spend a little time in Chicago, and I got a hold of both Tony and Ray Sorensen and said, what are the best blues clubs? Because I knew both of them are just blues freaks, and boy, did they tell us where to go. Huge fun. Yeah, good group. And again, what a great little battle here. Tony sitting in 5th right now, Fadani in 6th. And Tony's had a pretty good season in the GTSA category. I mean, he comes in here tied for 3rd in the points with Hedlund.
Yeah, no, so it's a fierce battle. I mean, right now Hedlund sits 3rd on the road, so that'll give him the edge going into the final day tomorrow. But lots to play for. I think we're going to see some swings before the end of the day and also before the end of tomorrow in the championship season.
Yeah, no
finale.
question. Tony, a couple of 3rd-place finishes this year really propelled them along here.
Gap at the front has kind of remained pretty stable at about a 2nd, but we've seen Ian James this year be pretty savvy and make the moves when it counts. But he's got a young racer in front of him who's really come on gangbusters over the last handful of years.
Yeah.
He's always had speed. Pole positions were never an issue for Jade Buford, and now he's got a lot of race experience to deal with situations like this where he's being chased by guys like Ian James and Lawson Aschenbach.
Well, it's interesting talking about Lawson and that story we heard from Ray Sorensen. The first time that car turned a wheel on a racetrack was Friday morning, and they said, we have no clue what it's going to be. I trust my team, and I'm sure it'll be fine. But, well, it was quick because he was right up in the sharp order of things. But coming in here, Jade Buford was 8 points behind Lawson Aschenbach in this championship run, sitting in the 3rd spot to Lawson's 2nd behind Safronis. And so Jade's going to compress that one up a little bit. Jade's still in the hunt here to maybe leapfrog and get up into 2nd.
He is, and you hate to, think about any bad luck to a competitor, but if Safronis had a bad day tomorrow and didn't get points, suddenly that means that there's several competitors can, jump over the top of him and take the title potentially.
Well, and we're looking at 3 of them here, and Aschenbach, Buford, and James. It's that close, and Harry Gottsacker tied with Ian James for 4th in the championship, only 6 points behind Jade Buford. So, yeah, if you threw James out of the window,
yeah,
things are really close.
How crazy was that Sprint X finale with Gottsacker having such a great day, and then Alex Welch being buried in the pack, and all that drama over the last few laps. And Safronis and Welch thought they had the title in hand, and suddenly it looked like it was going to get away from them. And then there's that late race incident that grabbed a couple of positions back for Alex Welch, and they finally got the title. But James said, I was certainly sweating it there. I could see it slipping away, but I'm sure he's determined to try and bring home these last couple of titles this weekend.
Oh, no question about it. And as we watch Jade Buford here, as he continues to lead, one of the things we talk about with this championship, obviously Pirelli and the Pirelli tire, and Pirelli and the title sponsorship in this championship, where the rubber meets the road is crucial. But something's got to be there to hold those tires, and one of the top tire manufacturers is Forge Line, and Steve Shart has wandered his way into pit lane, and I think Ryan Marine has tracked him down.
I have. Who better to ask about what exactly it is that helps the rubber meet the road than Forge Line Steve Shart. So let's talk about your product first. It's 20 years or more actually now in the business. For those who don't know, what does Forge Line do?
Well, we make forged aluminum racing wheels. We're homologated to the GT4 Camaro, GT4 Mustang, and the GT4 Panos. I started the company to make performance racing wheels. And, now after 25 years, we're racing on some of the top cars of the business, American-made on American-made cars. And it's exciting watching them race in an American series like World Challenge.
What does that partnership do in terms of being able to speak to your consumers, not just being matched with this series, Pirelli World Challenge, but also several manufacturers that a lot of motorsports fans identify with and cheer for?
Well, yeah, there has to be a certain trust. And these Ford, Mustang, Panos, they have to use the right stuff that makes sense to them, that lasts the race, that performs the best. And they put that trust in Forgeline. And that trust hopefully transfers into the commercial side where the people on the street vehicles, they can trust our wheels as well.
How intrinsic is motorsports in Forgeline's overall strategy?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
How important is motorsports in Forgeline's overall strategy?
It's incredibly important. What we learn on the racetrack is everything we put on our race wheels. And we learn, when the tires get better and the grip gets better, and we have to build a better wheel. And so when we take that designing and that engineering, we can make a better road wheel for every consumer on the performance cars as well.
It's an amazing story, a wonderful partner for the series as well. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. I know we'll be speaking to you again in race 2 for the Driver Start Your Engines, and we're looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely. Let's go racing.
All right, thanks very much. And you know what? Forgeline wheels on Mustangs, on Panos, on Camaros, they run 1, 2, 3. Coincidence?
I think not. No, that's a brilliant product.
It is.
What about the strength and the unsprung weight? They've really refined their product very, very well, and it's a testimony that all of these top teams are moving to their product.
Lawson Aschenbach has refined his way around this racetrack, hasn't he? He's redefined
lap.
it.
The bonus point that goes with it, and probably more significantly, he's closed in on the leaders. He's only 3/10 behind Ian James on the last lap across the stripe. And both the guys have got a little bit closer to Buford. And there's still a ways to go in this race, Greg.
Yes,
17 minutes to burn. I think one of these two guys may have something to say about the victory.
And I have to say, I really liked what Steve Shard said, was that, yes, we build a wheel, but we are constantly learning. He said because these tire manufacturers don't sit still, and Pirelli continues to develop and more grip, and if we don't up our game along with that, wheels break, and we have to come up with a product that can handle what those tires are delivering, and clearly they have done just that. And that's why so many of these manufacturers get into the motorsports end, because you can stress and test stuff so much quicker under a racing environment than you can just in a testing development. So it's impressive what they are doing, no question. And as we continue to watch Jade Buford leading in his PF Racing Ford Mustang, unfortunately Ryan has been able to find Patrick Gallagher now in the pits and out of his racing Mustang.
Yes, speaking with Patrick a little bit too soon, I'm afraid. Ultimately, what was it that ended your day early?
Yeah, we just had some temperature alarms in the diff, but Jade's leading the race right now, so our car's out, but we still got a Ford out front, and the PF Racing guys are going to look at it and get it fixed for tomorrow. We'll see what, a little bit disappointing, but we'll see what they get together overnight, and I'm sure we'll be there in the morning.
Did you learn anything today that you can transfer over to tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't get a great start. Just got into one and had a little bit of a slide, and the Sin got by, and someone else, I don't know who it is, but I think it was a Camaro, and just didn't get a great launch out of the gate there, and then started overheating as soon as I got around him. I thought I'd just drive it and see what it does. It got super hot and started backing down, and then from there it just got too hot to run. So.
Yep, thank you very much. Back to the Greg Kramer up in the booth.
I love it. Did Patrick put you up to that? That's fantastic. The Patrick Gallagher. We just saw a huge moment here. I don't know what it's going to do to affect him here and what the officials decide, but apparently the number 14 of Safronis absolutely missed the inner loop, it looked like, possibly.
Did he get through the if you go through the tire bundles, you're fine. Let's take another look here. Tries to make the move around Lewis. And he's perfectly okay. Yeah. They actually had to add a third bundle there last night because they had some drivers test yesterday just with the two, and they were actually getting through there quicker than you. It was supposed to be a deterrent, and it was actually quicker to go straight and do a little quick chicane there. So they added a tire bundle, and it does cost you enough time to make it a deterrent.
Yeah, but if I'm looking at this now, looking where he is with Hedlund, that will lose. He's just dropped 3 spots.
Yeah.
And again, this is overall is how the pros are scored here. That's big.
As soon as he comes across the line there.
Let's see where he slots in here.
Drop back to 8th, is it?
Here we go. Should cycle. Yep, 8th.
Yeah, that's a big swing.
It is.
Really makes a big difference in both championships. So he's been pushing hard. He had the fastest lap. That just got stolen by Lawson Oschenbach 2 or 3 laps ago. There's a ton of guys. I was looking at Patrick Gallagher now out of the race to see where he'd line up tomorrow. He's done a 156.58. Fastest lap is a 156.47, but I think, funnily enough, it's going to put him like 6 on the grid, how tight it is with that top 6 or 7 guys for the fastest lap of the race.
And interestingly here, we just haven't seen him because he's running a fairly lonely run, is the 69 of Harry Gottsacker, who comes in here tied with Ian James for 4th in the sprint championship in the Sin R1 from Racer's Edge. And he's got himself a nice lead back to Lewis, but he's also a ways behind Oschenbach at this stage, but he's got a good run going as well. But yeah, now for James Sofronis, it looked like James he popped out, and it was a smidge too late, wasn't it? He just couldn't get it wound down.
Yeah, and it's a tough place to make a move around the outside unless someone absolutely gifts it to you and just jumps on the brake and says, "After you, sir." So I'm not sure it was the wisest move to make, and but certainly James, we said, once he gets past that 50% mark, it's going to be game on in terms of charging towards the front. And I think he was in attack mode, but it's kind of backfired on him a little bit.
And boy, has it been fun to watch this young man's development this year. As last couple of years, he's run partial seasons along with Parker Chase in the Ginettas. And this year, he got teamed up with John Meraki in Racer's Edge. And, a couple of little moments in the early parts of the season. He showed speed right away. I think overall pole at Circuit of the Americas. But the results weren't quite coming. And then Portland. In the first race at Portland, he and Ian James got into an absolutely immaculate battle. And Harry admitted, yep, at the end, James schooled me in that first race. And in the next race, that mistake was not made again, and he got his first win. And he has really shown some stuff here in the second half of the season.
It's a great fit. I mean, John Meraki runs a lovely little race team and gives his drivers everything they need. Good support. He lives and breathes the sport. He's a fighter. He drives the truck on occasion. I mean, John Meraki will do it all literally to get his cars on the racetrack. And I think with the Sin, it's a lovely little race car. It's got certainly some strengths in terms of its cornering abilities and its braking. Probably around this track with the high-speed nature of the straightaways. Maybe not the strongest in those areas, but nonetheless a great package, and it's given Harry a great platform to display his talents this year. And another one of these young drivers who's really starting to find some fine form, Greg. I mean, we talked about him as a youngster a couple of years ago, he and Parker Chase, but both of those boys, you see what Parker did this year with Ryan Dial in the Sprint X Championship, capturing that title, and Harry's had a great year as well.
And we've been calling him for the whole season, 18-year-old Harry Gottsacker. Now we have to say 19. He did have a birthday, and that's good stuff. When I talked to John Meraki about it, he said yes. He said Harry has come along. He said he's a sponge. He makes a mistake on occasion, only once. Then he figures it out. He's just an absolute great study. But he said the team is also very much gelled around here. He said this whole team is clicking and in sync right now. And he said it's just been the second half of the season. He said it's been absolutely joyous to be a part of it. And we drop back a little bit here to Sofronis, sitting in that 8th spot overall. Yeah, 6th in the GTS class, but 8th in terms of points. And coming after him is Mike Hedlund.
Hedlund just laid down his fastest lap of the race, so he's watching another Audi get around the racetrack. And Mike is another driver who's like a sponge.
Yes.
You see Sofronis in front of him leading the way. He's doing exactly the same thing, and he's found time.
And as Hedlund attacks on Sofronis, we're kind of wondering what they're saying in the Global Motorsports Group pit, Ryan.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that, so we got Joe Foster from GMG here to hopefully shed a little bit of light on what's going on. James had the fastest lap of the race for a little bit. He's dropped back in recent laps, though. What have you heard from him?
No, the car's doing really great. We are just playing it pretty safe, here this weekend. It's all about the points for us, so we're here to just finish this race and walk away with some points and get after it again tomorrow and live to race another day. The championship is our big picture, obviously, but everything's great. The car is performing great. Audi's given us a great car. The weather's nice and cool here this weekend. No issues like we had in Utah. So we're doing really great. It's all going according to plan.
Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, Ryan.
Well, and that was a great adjustment that James made when he popped out and then realized, no, that's not going to work. you know, some driver may have tried to make that corner, car snaps sideways, powers in and hits those barriers, and James just straightened the wheel, locked up the brakes, and said, nope, I'll just give up a couple of spots here. That's pretty savvy racecraft. And you saw all over the crew chief's body their CrowdStrike. That's one of the big sponsors on that team, with George Kurtz, who's the CEO of that company, a cyber security company, an online security company. And they've become a great partner of the Pirelli World Challenge as well. So just wanted to give them a shout out here. This is interesting here. James and Aschenbach, this is snugging up.
Yeah, I think Ian James is the man to look at right now. Aschenbach is, it's suddenly go time, and you can see it. The language has changed in that race car. It looks a little bit edgier. Certainly, it's time to go get him if you got anything left. And they're gapping Aschenbach a little bit. So Aschenbach start to lay his cards on the table, and suddenly Ian James has responded. And I think Jade Buford is going to have to dig deep to maintain this lead, because James, as we've seen so many times this year, just seems to have the racecraft and understand his race car in terms of when it's got the strength, when to go for, when to put it all on the line.
Well, and yeah, how many times have we seen it with Ian this season? Late in the race, relative to everybody else, that Panos gets faster.
It does.
And obviously they have a great setup on the car, but James just somehow, as you said, seems to be able to conserve. Now I've got a weapon.
Yeah, and just the timing of his pole lap this morning, same thing. Didn't look, he's like loading around in the top 5, then bam, it was right there towards the end, and didn't give people a lot of time to respond to it.
And in talking to Jade a little bit earlier in the weekend, one of the comments he made was, he said, you know, this Mustang, he said, is actually absolutely incredible in the long, fast duration corners. He said it handles great. He said, but he said we think, he said, you know, and he wasn't complaining, BOP complaining. He was just saying, he said, just the way the car works. He said we're a little down on straight line, and he said, you know, this track has a lot of flow to it. He said, but you need that in spots, and he said that could be something that we're going to have to deal with here. And as we get into this final 7.5 minutes in the race, he's got that Panos is coming after.
Yeah, I agree totally, Greg. I mean, I spoke to Scott Maxwell about it. He said, you know, a lot of people think that the Mustang has strengths in the wrong areas. He said the car is got a lot of downforce. It is really good in high-speed corners. People think it's just a gorilla down the straightaways, and that's all we got. He said that's not the case. That's not our strongest area on the race circuit. He said we're really good on the brakes. We're really good in the high-speed corners where the aero effect really works.
Problem is yeah, you've got lots of long, fast corners where aero plays here, but you make this right-hand turn, you start climbing that hill, a little power doesn't hurt.
It doesn't. And to prove that point about Buford and the pace of the car, his last lap was within 400ths of his best, so he's still got pace there. So even though Ian James is coming after him, it seems like Jade has left a little bit in the can as well.
Absolutely. We're getting reports from around the corner net. We're seeing little occasional puffs of smoke possibly from the 72 Robinson Racing 74 Ranch machine of Shane Lewis, which has got a very nice run going, sitting in 5th at this stage. But haven't seen it on this shot. Right behind him, you see Courtney, the leader in the GTSA category.
And again, getting back to that GTSA points battle right now. Courtney would have a 9-point lead over Stavely going into tomorrow, so this is huge.
Yes, it is.
What a day.
Well, we really haven't heard what happened with Drew. I mean, like you said, he started 4th in class and has just gone backward, and it's possible he just got absolutely freight trained on the start, perhaps, and as a result, just has not been able to find his way back up through the pack. And for Courtney, playing beautifully into his hands, I'll tell you, with that new X Analytics sponsorship on there, along with his long-term sponsors, Kendon Rexta, a new graphics package featuring the X Analytics, that Maserati is a sharp-looking car.
It really is, and I spoke to him middle of the scene. I can't recall exactly which racetrack it was, and he just said, you know what, I think this car's a little bit too old in the tooth now to compete with this newer GT4 machinery. Well, that's not the case here over the last couple of rounds. I mean, he's driving very, very well. Came so close, he kept knocking on the door for that first win and just always seemed to elude him. But what a season it would be if he can suddenly click together a couple of wins here and potentially take the championship as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's had speed. He's had poles. You know, it isn't like he hasn't had the pace. It just, things haven't quite clicked for him. And it's great to see that finally happening. He's truly one of the nice guys in the paddock. And given it a great ride. And he said, ironically, he said, not having those aids, he said, really has made me a much better driver. He said, because it's smoothed out all my inputs. And he said, that's really nice. Ooh, that's a nice pass there by Gables, who is on the move. That's around and for fourth on Kurtz.
Yeah, that's a big move. Not sure if George had a little moment there coming out of the boot, but that's a tough place to make a pass. And Tony got down to the inside there, and Fidani's close to Kurtz as well.
I wonder if Kurtz doesn't have something just gone off a little bit. Huh?
He's lost a little bit of pace there momentarily, at least.
It's down through the 90, as they call it here, turn one. You start to climb up the hill, and Fidani, boy, he would love to get a top 5.
Yeah, no, he's really enjoying this race, and as we said earlier in the game, and racetrack he knows,
yep.
And that makes a big difference. I mean, you've been in various racing scenarios before. You've had to place the car in not the comfortable position and know what you get away with, and this will be a big factor here in these last couple of laps.
Yeah, he's had a couple of 6th this year. Has been his best place finishes in the Orlando Corp C17 Media FAF Porsche. Would love to get that top 5 knocked out here.
There's Stavely. Just curious to know what's going on here today. I mean, this has been a competitor who's been at the sharp end all season long. Had the overall win at Lime Rock. Jeanetta's certainly a lovely little race car, but today has not been his day. Like they turned things around in qualifying, ended up with the top 4 qualifying position when they got reinstated with the lap that was initially taken away for track limits. But these positions here right in front of him, he will have to go for it. He needs to gobble some points up here, otherwise Courtney's lead may be too much to jump over tomorrow.
And particularly in view of the pace that Courtney has here, yeah, he needs to do something. And we're getting a report. Apparently, we didn't see it, but Buford has taken, has gone by start-finish, so they're saying next time by we should see. And Calvert runs way wide. In theory, he should be asked to cede a position out of the number 40 of Pesic.
Well, it's a bit of a strange one. He didn't gain position. He just kind of maintained. So if there was no real big advantage gained, some people look at it differently if you're on the Pesic box.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he may just get a warning and not just give the position up. If he'd made a move and went out there and kept it would be a different story.
This is a really stout battle, and again, and Mike Hedlund is plummeting down the order. And I just heard, I think he may have ended up having to stop, and they may have done a tire change on the number 45. Just coming an update from pit lane now. So here we go, anticipating white flag for Jade Buford. And Ian James, now did he just improve that best lap to a 56.2? Or was that what you had seen before?
Yeah, I think that's what we'd seen before. Maybe he did a 56.5 on the last lap. I mean, everyone's knocking on the door. It's not like they suddenly lost a second. Everyone's within 2 or 3 tenths of that fast lap at the sharp end of this field. And this is I wouldn't say it's a surprise, but this is a stellar performance by Jade Buford. I really felt that Ian James from the pole displayed the pace in qualifying, that he was just biding his time. But Jade Buford and that team have been up to the task of resisting the challenge from behind.
We have fair evidence that Jade is one fast driver. In another sports car championship a few years ago, in the course of one season, he ran off like 7 pole positions. And just great to see him being able to put this together here. James is not that far back, any kind of a little misstep. And I think that's Hedlund that just came back out of the pits. Yep. So depends on what happens here. But yeah, Jade is on his game here today. This would be his 2nd win of the season. They got one in Sprint X competition at Circuit of the Americas. But this would be his first sprint win.
Key is going to be with Hedlund if he did have to throw a fresh tire at it. I mean, he's shown pace here today, but if he's still trying to get tire temp with that, could that be a factor here with just a few corners to go? James is close. He buries it in on the brakes there. He's got a lot closer here on this last lap. It was 8 tenths across the stripe. It's probably 2 tenths right now. Buford's going to have to defend.
Yeah, that's not even a car length, really. And he's got
James is coming. He is getting closer. Buford protects the inside line there into the brake zone. James to the outside, looking for a way by.
Now he's going to try the over-under. Buford watching where James goes. Dives to the inside. Now back to the out. And Lawson Aschenbach thinking, boy, they touch.
Buford sliding the car, drifting the car off of turn 9.
Through turn 10. Hedlund far enough up the road, shouldn't be an issue. Buford protecting a little bit, but open the radius up enough to get the run. It's a drag race to the start-finish line, and Buford looks in the pink Ford to have just enough. And Ford and Jade Buford win at Watkins Glen International with Ian James. It's the official margin, 0.2 of a second. Adrift in second spot, and Lawson Aschenbach and the Black Dog Camaro brings it home in third. Harry Gottsacker in fourth. Lewis should be okay in that fifth spot. But what a day for Jade Buford. And here we go for the GTSA win on the day, his second of the season for Jeff Courtney, second of his career. But more importantly, a massive change in GTSA points.
Yeah, big swing. Big swing here today. 142, Staveley 134, so an 8-point lead from a 7-point deficit. Battle here, right down to the wire. Tony Gaples trying to hang on from George Kurtz. They've gapped Fidani a little bit.
And this is for a podium for Tony Gaples if he can hang on to it here. And he's got the run. Does he do it? He does. Tony's, I think, third podium of the season. Kurtz in fourth, and Ori Fidani shakes that top 6 and gets his first fifth-place finish of the season. What a great run for Ori in that Orlando Corp Pfaff Porsche. Absolutely superb. And Courtney with that win. And, boy, we can really have some fun with this here. But Nikolai Elganian ends up with a second place, ground his way to a second place finish, quite literally. And just a great drive. And, boy, was he fun to watch in the opening laps of that race.
It was awesome. That was a great race there in those initial stages with the crossbow fighting its way with the big muscle cars. Safronis comes across the line in 7th overall, 6th in class, Greg, and I think that should be enough to seal the deal on the overall championship, but certainly has tightened up for the sprint championship going into the last race tomorrow.
No question. Things snugging up just a little bit. You know, as we watch Jade, you're just, one thing on James Safronis. This is his 25th year in competition. He went 23 years without a championship, kept racing it. Last year he got 2. Now he may have another 2.
Yeah.
When it comes in bunches, and he's such a great supporter long term. I mean, I remember when they were running GT Porsches, and he got permission from the Pirelli World Challenge to build a line of aftermarket parts for his GMG company that does tuning on Porsches, and it said WC tuned. And I mean, he's been that involved as a supporter of this championship, and it's nice to see it all come good for him. But great to see Jade Buford get this big first sprint win in this championship as well.
Well, certainly Ian James scared him on that last lap.
Boy.
I think he came across the line thinking, I got this one well in hand, and suddenly Ian James was all over him through that last half lap.
I almost wonder if Ian maybe just left him 1 lap too late, because he certainly seemed to have it. And Aschenbach will complete that podium, of course. And Jade Buford brings that pink Mustang down into pit lane.
Pretty in pink, certainly is in victory lane, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, you know where that car is on the track, and the photographers certainly will know where to find it. And he's working his way out of that machine. And of course, Ryan Marine, we'll get to him as soon as possible, but here's some celebrating to do first, and he has earned it. What an absolutely great drive. Enjoying this moment. And the nice thing is we get to see it happen all again tomorrow. Here's Jack Baldwin, who, of course, very involved in the GTS category for Pirelli World Challenge these days, a legend in his own right, coming over and saying hi as Lawson crawls out from behind the wheel. Ian James there as well. And congratulations coming from a slew of folks. These are special moments. You certainly want to allow them to enjoy it. I think Jade is just kind of milking the moment here. Look at that. Ian comes over. Great hardcore competitors, but also tremendous respect. No question about that. And the earplugs come out.
Yep.
Looks like it's interview time, Ryan.
Well, it hasn't been the easiest season for Jade Buford. He's rocking the pink Mustang here. I asked him earlier in the weekend, why is it pink? He said it's because it looks cool and it adds 30 horsepower. That helped you in that drag race to the start-finish line, right?
I still need about 50. So, yeah, that was a tough one. Great job to all the guys at PF Racing. They gave me the best car they absolutely could. That was absolutely everything we had to say at the end, and it was a bit of struggle at the end, to be honest. I was getting kind of worried with that lap traffic, but we held on, and hopefully we can repeat tomorrow. I don't know where we qualified, but we'll just try to make the best of it.
We wish you the best of luck in race 2.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, he had to earn that one those last few laps, no question, with the speed of Ian James coming after him here. And let's take a look here at our overall results. And obviously we got that with Buford, James, and Aschenbach completing the podium. Gottsacker in the Sin, 4th, and Shane Lewis rounding out the top 5 in the overall and in the GTS category. And then in GTSA, 6th place overall. Your winner is Jeff Courtney in the number 99 X Analytics Kenda Rechtstuff Maserati. As we look here at the results, and then a couple of pretty spectacular races here. James Safronis ends up in 7th spot, and Nikolai Elganian, in the 8th spot. Robinson in 9th, and Tony Gaples completes the GTSA podium in the 10th spot. Let's get back down to Ryan, who is with our GTSA winner.
Second win of the year for Jeff Courtney. How special was this one? You were in a lot of traffic all throughout, especially the first half of this race.
Yeah, we got a tough start, and that set us back a little bit. And there's a lot of tough driving back there, and people aren't going to give you an inch. It's a great racetrack, super fun. We came here. I've been off for about 2 months, so I was a little concerned about how I might come back driving, but drove great. I've got some sponsors here, X Analytics, and the guys from Kenda, so great to put on a good show for them. And I don't know where we stand in the points, but hopefully we have a shot at it tomorrow. But it was a lot of fun.
Go get him in race 2.
Thanks, buddy.
Well, I think he's got better than a shot at it here with the speed he's got. He's looking pretty solid right now. Here's a look at our GTSAM results. Courtney, Elganian, Gaples, Kurtz, and Fidani. There's your top 5 with Henry Schmidt in the BMW San Francisco entry. Jason Bell, Preston Calvert, James Pesic. And there's the story. Courtney 1st, Stavely 10th. And that is a big swing in those points.
It really is. It's going to be a tough day for Drew Stavely to pull one out of the bag. But racing is racing. Anything can happen here. And what a racetrack. Everyone's enjoyed today, and they're looking forward to tomorrow. It's great to have these doubleheader weekends.
And, of course, when there's a champion crown, you want to hear from him, right?
James Safronis clinching the overall championship here in race number 1. But you just said off camera, it's kind of frustrating not to get to race as hard as you'd like. How difficult is it behind the wheel to keep it big picture all the time?
Well, you got to think big picture, but you're a racer. Your emotions are you want to push and go to the front. We had a problem in qualifying, a blown tire, and I didn't get a chance to show what the car was worth. But more importantly, an overall championship for GMG Racing. The team did a great job. They had to change some parts on the car, and they just made it flawless. So I had to be smart today. Definitely wanted to get up front, but, all of the effort and support from Mobile One, the Thermal Club, 511, all the guys at GMG, my wife and my kids, Jensen and Chloe, how are you? Hope you're watching. But, sweet victory, and we have a race tomorrow to clinch the Sprint Championship. And at this point, I'm very pleased. I love World Challenge. I love Pirelli tires. I mean, this is where I've been for 25 years. And so to win an overall championship is very, very gratifying. So for me, I'll take it, and then we'll have some fun tomorrow and hopefully clinch the Sprint and make it a clean sweep. And then obviously thanking Audi. Audi and the R8 GT4 LMS was amazing. And so I thank all the support from them.
Congratulations. Well-deserved. Best of luck in race 2.
All right, thanks.
Well, and he mentioned the Manufacturers Championship. Audi came in here, Cal, with, by my count, an 8-point lead over Chevrolet, Ford, and Panos, who are all very closely grouped. That's going to compress a little bit, so that one is going to be on the line tomorrow for sure. So we're in for some fun. There's no question about that, as the second of the doubleheaders to wrap up the season will be unfolding tomorrow. And, of course, there's also team championships as well that everybody are going to be paying attention to. So it's been a really fun first day after 8 years absent to be back here at Watkins Glen International for this series. And we've seen some absolutely remarkable races.
Spectacular venue, great racing, good, clean, hard racing, very respectful. And I think you need to do that around this racetrack because of the speeds. But I'm loving James Sofron. As you talked about, he's been campaigning for 25 years now, and he could grab his 5th title. And you'd think when he's sitting in a bar describing his career, well, I won 5 titles over 25 years. Say, what years? He said, well, 2017 and 18.
Exactly.
They're all happened over the course of like 18 months.
Yeah, and, you know, at a time when for a lot of guys, the championships are not the issue anymore. You know, you're kind of winding down a little bit, and he's showing he's absolutely still top bar. It's just fascinating.
50 next month, I think. So
yeah, I didn't want to say that, so thanks for jumping in there. Well, that's going to wrap up our coverage. We do want to remind everybody that we get going right bright and early tomorrow, 9:45 a.m. You're going to be that's Eastern time. You're going to want to be back with us here on SiriusXM and or at world-challenge.com, as we will start a very busy day of racing with the second of the touring car races. And if you watch that one here today, you're not going to want to miss it. One of the best races we have seen in some time in that touring car race unfolded. And then it's just racing after racing after racing with a lunch break right in the middle. So 9:45 a.m. tomorrow, thereabouts. Please make sure you're with us. For Calvin, for Ryan, and for Gino Carini, who covers all the pits action for the touring cars, I'm Greg Creamer. It's been a treat to have you with us here. We're loving New York, no question about that. We hope you'll come back and join us tomorrow.